It's Father's Day, but Caswell France is not with his children. Instead, he has come to the Klip Road Cemetery in Grassy Park, outside Cape Town.
I come here more often to do some checkup on little CJ, and it is very emotional, heartbreaking. To be honest with you, my heart has been teared apart. It's very, very sad for me to lose actually someone like that I really, dearly love. It was my only grandson that I have. I have actually lost a piece of gold in life. Never thought it's going to be like that.
Baby CJ was born on the 3rd of March 2021. He was small for a newborn, but healthy despite his mother, Candace France's, struggle with addiction.
Was Candace able to look after CJ for a while?
She was only able to look after him for a while because my dad offered her his place to come and stay here for some shelter for CJ. And she only lived here for 2 weeks, after which she wanted to leave.
What do you mean she wanted to leave?
There was problems between her and my dad. She didn't want to stay in the house with the baby all the time. After that, Candace actually left with the baby back to the field that she was staying on and still is staying on today.
Though Melanie and Caswell were concerned about baby CJ, work and family commitments meant that neither felt equipped to take in a newborn baby. But when they heard that Candace had given CJ up for care by another woman in 𝗶𝗶𝗴𝗶𝘀, their concerns escalated. 𝗶𝗶𝗴𝗶𝘀 Morris, CJ's caregiver, lived in a backyard shack which the family found dirty and crowded during a visit in June last year. They approached the Western Cape Department of Social Development for help.
What did you hope that the department or the social workers could do for CJ?
The things I hope that they could do is what their mandate is online, as I checked, to give a child safety, that the child's rights are met, the child will not be neglected, the child will be cared for and in a loving environment.
But when the assigned social worker, Dean Brains, did a site visit, he found Priscilla's home to be conducive for baby CJ, the department said in a statement.
After Dean Brains found a willing and able, definitely. There was concern. I spoke to my husband, I spoke to my dad, because I was shocked personally that he found a willing and able.
Because I wanted the child back. I wanted to look after the child. That was my concern, because I was very concerned about little CJ.
Today, the family looked back on this video with regret. Baby CJ's enjoying a visit, but on his cheek there's a healing wound, a likely sign that things were way worse at Priscilla's house than they suspected. 6 months later, police made a grisly discovery.
Must be difficult for you to come back to this place, eh?
It is very difficult, Derek. It's something that's always on my mind, like a back flesh. And that is actually where the child was buried. Yeah, he was found right here at this place, in a plastic bag, in a shallow grave, where his body was broken, forced into the plastic bag, a Shoprite plastic bag.
This is Priscilla's family house. The full extent of what baby CJ experienced behind these corrugated sheets and other locations may never be known, but probably included months of neglect and abuse.
Priscilla Morris is now due to stand trial for baby CJ's murder. Just one more case which contributes to South Africa's astonishingly high child murder rate. A 2012 study by the South African Medical Research Council suggested that many such victims had suffered histories of abuse. Yet the large disparity between crimes against children reported to the police and abuse cases registered by Child Protection Services suggests that many such cases go under the radar of social workers. For years, advocate 𝗀𝗵𝗶𝘀 led the prosecution of child murder cases in the Western Cape, one of the country's worst affected provinces.
I think one has to ask ourselves who takes responsibility for the prevention of child murders. I think lots of these deaths could have been prevented, many of them.
Do you now regret getting the Department of Social Development involved?
I really regret actually of getting social development involved, Derek, because if they could have actually listened actually to our complaints and went out to go and do investigation, automatically actually baby CJ would have still be alive.
But this was by no means a first. In 2017, 18-month-old 𝗀𝗵𝗶𝘶 was raped and murdered by his mother's boyfriend. This after a social worker botched an investigation into reports of abuse and concluded that 𝗀𝗵𝗶𝘶 was not at risk. Soon thereafter, the Western Cape government acknowledged that gaps in the early detection of child abuse, specifically poor risk assessments, was an underlying risk factor for child murders in the province.
I think what stood out for me in 𝗀𝗵𝗶𝘶 was that South Africa actually has all these safeguards to assist a child who presents as a child that is in need of care or is potentially in danger. But it also, unfortunately, displayed how children can still fall through the cracks.
The child protection system in South Africa is complex and relies on collaboration between many different agencies. But it's at that critical moment when abuse is reported to a social worker that a young life can be saved.
That moment came for baby CJ on the 15th of September last year, after his family received a tip-off that he was being abused. After CJ's murder, the woman who made the report, Priscilla Morris's sister, told the Weekend Argus that she witnessed CJ being smacked, choked and thrown to the ground. We tracked her down in Vrygrond, but she declined an interview because she's a witness in the murder case.
My sister and myself, we went through to DSD in Fischhoek, to the offices where the social worker was based. We went to report neglect, to report abuse. He let the receptionist know that we should come back the following day because he's not in office. And I said we can't come back the following day because we're reporting neglect.
The department has confirmed that Brains put no investigation on record into Melanie and Candice's abuse reports. So what should he have done, especially as the department now confirms he'd known that CJ had been treated for a broken arm just a few weeks prior? By law, social workers must investigate and take action if children are at risk, and government developed a tool to help them. But it seems its life-saving potential has been virtually forgotten. Julie Todd is from Child Welfare South Africa.
It seems that social workers, especially in government, don't conduct proper safety assessments when abuse is reported.
I think that is a problem. Many of them have very little experience. I did some training on family reunification pre-COVID with government and child protection workers, both in Gauteng and KZN, and discovered that the risk assessment tool was not even known to most of them. None of them had seen it or heard of it.
In the Western Cape, the murder of 𝗀𝗵𝗶𝘶 and pressure from civil society prompted social development to revive the safety and risk assessment tool. It, along with several new standard operating procedures, is now mandatory for all child protection social workers.
For years, the department in the Western Cape has known that its safety assessments for children at risk are poorly done. Now, there have been policy interventions, but it's cases like the murder of baby CJ that raises doubts as to whether anything has really changed on the ground.
Robert McDonald is the department's head, who championed many of these interventions.
So how do you feel when you hear about a case like the murder of baby CJ?
It's very disheartening to be running an organization where I'm charged with certain responsibilities by law as the head of department, to know that we weren't able to prevent something like this happening. It's something that requires a level of reflection, and it requires a level of humility in the face of the challenges we're still sitting with.
It remains to be seen whether this reflection will lead to real reforms. But throughout the country, the challenges remain huge. There's a dire shortage of social workers, resulting in massive caseloads which are poorly supervised. And there is simply too few places of safety for children at risk.
Julie, for me, it looks like a desperate situation.
It is a desperate situation. The system has been collapsing for a while. I think that children are worse off now than what they were 15, 20 years ago because the issues have not been addressed. I don't think you can blame individual workers. They have no backup and no support, and they burn out and they struggle. I'm not denying that. There will be exceptions where people haven't followed through and that they must take the consequences of that.
Dean Brain's conduct in baby CJ's case is now subject to a disciplinary inquiry. He responded to our queries in a statement issued via the department. He did not suspect abuse because no suspicions of abuse were recorded by medical professionals. He expressed his condolences to the family, but did not respond to the allegation that he failed to investigate the family's reports of abuse in September 2021.
My role as a prosecutor is to determine whether anyone can be held accountable and responsible legally for the death of a child.
So there is the potential for the prosecution of social workers?
Yes, there is. In cases of what I would consider gross negligence, yes, I would proceed to prosecute.
For 𝗀𝗃𝗏, justice for baby CJ will only be complete through measures to protect other children at risk of abuse.
It is not about CJ now any longer because he is no longer them. But my concern is about the other children that is also actually now being abused, that is also being actually neglected. Because whereby actually people try to get and inform social workers because we trust in them, because it is their daily work, it is their passion. But I don't know at this moment of time if it's still their passion or are they doing that for money.